Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're just bringing folks into this webinar with American Promise and Protect Maine elections about one of the most exciting issues coming to the people of Maine, and of course, an issue across the country, the question of the domination of money in our political system, including foreign government money. And folks in Maine are rallying to gather signatures of their fellow citizens on Tuesday, November 2nd, Election Day, so that the people can be heard with the ballot initiative in 2022. But we need to start tonight with signature gathering and get ready for Tuesday. So we have a great conversation today. Again, I'm Jeff Clements, president of American Promise. Welcome to this conversation. We are on Facebook live as well. So people watching on Facebook, welcome to you as well. We're glad you're with us. And I want to let you know who's here. We're gonna be talking soon with Representative Nicole Grahowski. I'll introduce her in a few minutes. We're going to also hear from Representative Dr. Richard Evans, and I'll introduce Dr. Evans as well about the situation in Maine, how the people of Maine, the legislature of Maine, across all partisan lines, united, are responding to the threat of big money, including foreign government money in Maine's political system. We're also going to hear from Hillary Shende, who is a volunteer leader in American Promise's Maine chapter, Stand with Maine. And Hillary has been out having thousands of conversations with her fellow volunteers, clipboards in hand, gathering signatures. She's going to share the wonderful, heartwarming in many ways for these days in our American political life. Those conversations have been, it's something that really unifies people. So again, welcome to this call. We're glad you're with us. Please do feel free to put your questions forward in the Q&A or the chat. Follow the chat. There'll be links going in there. There already is the most important link. You can sign right up for the signature gathering on Tuesday to get this issue about how we put the voices and the voters of Maine first, and rather than the big money in our political system. I'm going to bring in, as I said, Representative Grahowski in just a minute to share what exactly this is, this ballot initiative in Maine, what the background is, and what you can do in terms of volunteering from Protect Maine elections. And then before I do, though, I want to share just a bit of background. What's happening in Maine is part of a national crisis of American democracy, where the voters, the people are really pushed to the sidelines by the domination of big money. And you are not alone in Maine in responding to this, putting partisan, geographic, demographic, other differences aside, because everybody's in the same boat. Unless you have $1 billion and can drop, $1 million here, $1 million there into this race or that race, or a treasury of a big powerful union or big powerful corporation, you're struggling to be heard. And that was really, as I said, it's a national issue, and it's a national response. American Promise is leading and mobilizing Americans across the political spectrum to win a constitutional amendment. That's what it's going to take. We need a constitutional amendment, an amendment to the US Constitution to secure our rights to be heard, our political system against corruption and against the kind of forces that we're contending with now in our national life. American Promise started just a few years ago, but I want to share some of the great Maine folks who are helping lead in Maine and across the country. Right away, Senator Olympia Snowe signed on, former Republican US Senator for Maine. Congressman Tom Allen, a Democrat, signed on. Independents like Dick Woodbury signed on, and all kinds of Mainers from across Maine have signed on to this campaign. You can see some of them at our American Promise Maine page, and we call that Stand with Maine because it's about Mainers standing together against the outside forces of money that are dominating. I want to share one more link, and then we're going to turn to the current ballot initiative fight, I'm actually going to share two more links. One, and these are all in the chat. This next one is a report we did about what happened in Maine. $200 million. I'm sure you remember that during the Senate race, Susan Collins' race against Sarah Gideon. $200 million came in. All of the attacks, the division, the misinformation, the disinformation, driven by that kind of money, almost all the money coming in big amounts from outside the state with people who had no interest in the state, but were fighting for power in the Senate, power in Washington. Read the report. It's bipartisan. The problem is bipartisan. The solution is bipartisan. So there's a lot of background there. Thousands and thousands of Mainers signed on to American Promise's Stand with Maine campaign. And now we're faced with a great opportunity to do something big about it. We're very proud to work with Protect Maine elections and the leaders in that effort who fought in the legislature to get foreign government money out of elections. How can you be against that, right? Foreign government money influencing our elections to support this constitutional amendment and get our congressional delegation working across partisan lines to get it passed in Congress. Just like in Maine, people put partisan politics aside for the good of the state. That's what needs to happen in Washington. That's what this ballot initiative is. I'm going to bring in now Representative Nicole Grahowski to tell us more about the cross-partisan support in the legislature for this effort, and now leading right into Protect Maine elections and what we as voters need to do to help our fellow citizens have a voice and get this on the ballot. And it starts tonight, and we'll be out at the polling places on Tuesday, gathering signatures. Welcome, Nicole Grahowski, representative from Ellsworth, Maine. Her background in the legislature, I think, is well known. But so is her support and work to help all kinds of different causes and efforts that keep Maine both successful and beautiful. So I say that because she's one of the leaders on the board of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. She has been on a volunteer and a leader, not only as a volunteer firefighter, but the Heart of Ellsworth, Green Ellsworth. She is a doer and steps in. And when she stepped in the legislature, she served on the Standing Committee on Energy, Utilities, and Technology, advocating for affordable and reliable electricity, universal broadband, and other efforts. She gets the connection between environmental protection, economic development, a healthy civic society. Representative Grahowski, we're so glad to have you with us tonight. Tell us more about your efforts against foreign government money and your support for this Protect Maine Elections Ballot Initiative.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to be here with you and American Promise this evening and everyone who's joined us. I am very excited to be working with American Promise and Protect Maine Elections to do just that, protect Maine elections. I was a co-sponsor of a bill in the last legislative session known as LD 94. It was a bill sponsored by Republican Senator Rick Bennett of Oxford. And this bill sought to close a loophole, a dangerous loophole that we discovered in recent years, that foreign governments and foreign government-owned corporations can spend money to influence referendum questions. It is federally illegal and has been for decades for these entities to spend money to influence candidate elections, but we found that because only so many states have referendum processes, that this was a loophole that we had in Maine. So we decided it was really important to protect elections from this sort of foreign government interference. And so we sponsored this bill together. This bill had bipartisan support through the legislature and a near supermajority. So we were almost able to have it go into law in an emergency fashion. But however, we were unable to find compromise with the executive branch on this particular issue. And the issue is not just foreign government interference in elections, but that regular Maine people are having their voices completely drowned out by big money And often we're not even sure the exact source of that money. And this is making it really hard for us to be democratically engaged and to talk to our neighbors. We can still do that and we still should do that, but there is this booming noise that's all around us that it is hard to hear through. And so I would like regular Maine people to be able to have their thoughts and concerns shared at the same level with the same amount of amplification as any other entity, especially a foreign government owned entity, which does not have the best interests of Maine people at first of mind or in their hearts. So we are working to bring this initiative, this exciting initiative, to the Maine voters through a ballot question, which means that we need to make sure that we get enough support from Maine voters to put it on the 2022 ballot, one signature at a time. So every conversation that I have or Jeff or anyone else can have that encourages a Maine person to sign our petition, that gets us one step closer to putting this important topic in front of Maine voters in November 2022. I could go on, but you might have other questions for me, Jeff.
I do, in fact, have other questions. So thank you. So the ballot initiative does two things. It prohibits foreign government money in elections. And second, charges the State Ethics Commission with issuing a report on how the congressional delegation is doing at advancing the amendment, the constitutional amendment that goes beyond the foreign government money, which is bad enough, but also the kind of onslaught of $200 million in super PAC and dark money and wealthy interests and all kinds of forces of money coming into the political system. The first piece, as you said, could be a legislative action, but it was vetoed. So it's time for the people to speak on that. The second piece needs a constitutional amendment because of Supreme Court decisions that have equated unlimited money with free speech and basically said, we, the people, can do nothing about it. And so we're just at the beginning of this kind of domination of money if we don't fix it. I want to ask you, as I will with Representative Evans, what people in your district are saying about this. We find around the country a reaction to that concept that somehow unlimited money has more rights than the people. And I want to just sort of check this because it's pretty important, because the constitutional amendment isn't easy. You need consensus of every American pretty much. And we think we have it, but I want to ask you, is that what you see in your district? Whether, is there a split on this between Republicans and Democrats up in Ellsworth or independents, or what are the conversations that you're having about this?
Sure, great question. So, when I began running for office in 2018, I knocked on a lot of doors to talk to voters in my district, a couple thousand, in fact, actual connections made. So I was talking to people all across the political spectrum in order to best learn what was on their minds and be able to serve them if I was elected. And honestly, 2018, was a big election year in the state of Maine, and a lot of people asked me, can you make these ads stop? What can we do to get a little peace and quiet, and to hear our own thoughts and hear the thoughts of our neighbors? And I said, unfortunately, that's not something that we can regulate at the state level because of, as you mentioned, these Supreme Court decisions. So I know that there's a lot of interest from people, again, across the spectrum to have a better understanding of who's paying for these ads and a limit on how much they're paying. I mean, we know, as you've mentioned, I think 200 million, we know in a recent current ballot question that there's been over 60 million spent, that there are so many needs to be met for regular Maine people that could be met with that money. And instead, it is just literally being tossed away in the airwaves and on mailers. And, people are at home fretting about, should I start a fire with this mailer because the recycling program doesn't work? What do I do with all this junk? So I think that there's a great support from everyone I've talked to. And honestly, since becoming involved with Protect Maine elections and just posting about it a little bit on my social media, I've got people from all different parties and different ways that I know them and work with them, giving me the thumbs up and saying, I love this, like, let's do this. So I do think it has broad support in Maine. And I'm excited that Maine can be a leader yet again in such an important initiative to really take back our democracy.
Yeah. And I want to bring in Dr. Evans in just a minute, but before I want you to have kind of the last word on the, and you're going to come back at the end to reiterate this, but there's a specific ask to the folks on the call tonight. If you're here tonight, if you're out on Facebook, if you're watching this on a recording, if it's been forwarded to you, there's a specific one big thing you can do to save America and save Maine on this, and that is sign up at the link. My colleague Zai is going to put the sign up one more time into the chat. We'll follow up with you and send it to you. But Nicole, Representative Grahowski, if people sign up on that link, they're going to be put to action pretty fast. Why is Election Day, which is Tuesday in Maine, so important for this ballot initiative? Why is it so important that people sign up right now if this isn't until 2022?
Great question. So we have a goal of collecting over 63,000 valid signatures from voters here in Maine, and we need to have those turned in by early 2022 in January in order to put this on the ballot in 2022 in November. And that's a really important election because that's an election that will have a lot of turnout, and we believe that Maine people should speak, and they should speak loudly on this matter and as soon as possible. So if you sign up to volunteer with us, we will have a team that will get in touch with you and give you all the details about where you can go at a polling place close to your house, indoors or outdoors, depending on your comfort level, and get you connected with all the materials you need to talk to fellow Maine people about why you're concerned and why it's important that they sign this petition in order to protect our Maine elections. And I can say, as a person who has gathered signatures on other topics, it can be such an exhilarating way to connect with people and find common ground and really build back up the hope that we have so much that we agree on and can work together on to really strengthen our country. So I would encourage you. I'll be out there collecting signatures, and so many other people have already signed up. So you will be joining a growing team of people who are ready, not only to protect Maine elections, but to also work on fundamental change at the federal level.
Great. Well, thank you. So please do sign up. You'll be hearing almost immediately in the next few days, and you will be given the support and everything you need to have the great experience that Hillary Shinde is going to share with us in a few minutes about actually getting out there and getting signatures. This will be the 7th ballot initiative that American Promise has been involved in about our constitutional amendment to put the people back in charge and to take on the corruption of big money in our political system. We've never lost. They always depend on the people, though, because we aren't the big money forces. We are the people forces. So we need you. Sign up, and we will win number 7. We'll kick foreign government influence out of Maine's elections, and we'll begin moving this country back in the right direction. Representative, thank you so much. Stand by. We're going to bring you back in a few minutes, but let me bring Representative and Dr. Rich Evans into the conversation. Representative Evans, Dr. Evans, we're so glad that you could join us. Let me just say a few things about you, and then I will give you the mic. Dr. Evans now represents District 120. It's an area that's traditionally viewed as somewhat conservative, although Dr. Evans is a Democrat. That's Maine. People look for the right character and the right kind of representative and focus less ideally on the party labels as the only defining characteristic. It's Atkinson, Brownville, Dover, Foxcroft, Lakeview, Medford, Milo, and Orneville Township. Dr. Evans is a decorated veteran of the U.S. Air Force. He served as the hospital commander at the Whiteman Air Force Base in Montana. He was subsequently appointed as the medical group commander of the 28th Medical Group, Ellsworth Air Force Base in Montana. He's in private practice, general surgery, serves on the Health Coverage Insurance and Financial Services Committee in the legislature. He's a past president of the Maine Medical Association, a senior delegate to the American Medical Association, and for 15 years has served as moderator of the General Assembly of the MMA, as well as the editor of Maine Medicine. Obviously, Dr. Evans knows medicine, he knows healthcare, he knows Maine, he knows public policy, and he knows national defense and much more. And we're going to ask him about all those things. But Dr. Evans, welcome to this call about the Protect Maine elections effort. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership on this effort.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for having me with you tonight. I'm very happy that we are having this opportunity to discuss this issue. I think that if anybody takes anything away from this discussion tonight, don't forget one word that that Representative Grahowski said, because she hit everything on the mark. As you noted, I am a Democrat, and I am in a district that is highly Republican. But I can tell you that on this particular issue, I don't think that there are any situations where a party is of concern. We live in a democratic republic, and our democracy depends on the input and the will of the people. And everybody, no matter what party you belong to, wants to have their voices heard. And when you have all of these outside introductions and participations, some above board, mostly below board, that participate in our elections, people are feeling that their voices are not being heard. That is the last thing that we can allow to happen in a democratic republic. So no matter what, how you look at the spectrum, in my county as well, I don't think that I can recall any person who is for the continuation of this outside involvement in Maine elections. I think just, I was looking at some of the flyers that I've been getting, and I'm sure many of you are aware of the major question one that's coming up on our on the ballot in November. And I was just leafing through some of the flyers that I received. I counted today, I have 14 flyers that came in, and today is only Tuesday. And so you can see how much money is being put into this, this battle. That should be a battle with the outcome determined by Maine people. So it not only do people feel that their input and their vote is being devalued. In actuality, it is being devalued. So the closure of the loophole that we have here in Maine is very, very important. Even though it did not make it this time, I'm sure that we're going to hear more about it to see about getting that loophole closed. I think we have to also look at this from a national security issue. That as a commander in the Air Force, previous commander in the Air Force, national security is it's our foundation. You cannot have situations where information is being picked from individuals. Most of the times, we don't know who these people are. They can get into, not just into your realm or your space, but they deliberately pick and choose individuals that will be beneficial to their government long term. And one thing that they tend to have on their side is time. They don't necessarily expect something to happen overnight. It could be a gift or it could be a recommendation, but eventually there is a plan behind that. And once they have that little inroad, then they can control what you do and how you respond as far as voting. So you find yourself voting on behalf of these outside individuals, whether you agree with them or not, as opposed to looking out for your constituents. I think it's just with social media in particular and cybersecurity, all of these things, we need to make sure that we have a better grasp on how things are going in the future. But we can't continue to drag our feet on this. I think it's imperative that we take a broad look across the board. And if Congress can't get this done, we're in deep trouble. So I'll stop right there.
Yeah, Dr. Evans, thank you. I want to underline the foreign government influence that you mentioned, the national security issue. Colonel Wilkerson, former chief of staff to Secretary Powell, who recently passed away, General Powell, is on our advisory council, excuse me, at American Promise. The reason he is such a believer in this effort, both in Maine and across the country, this constitutional amendment, is exactly that, national security. And you can point to many examples. Right now, Maine is facing it because, we talked about the $200 million Senate race as basically a battle of wealthy interests that involved the Senate and control in Washington. It had nothing to do with the money, didn't care about Maine or Mainers. It cared about power. The energy issues that we're facing in our country and elsewhere are global. There's a global chessboard, and many states sometimes don't realize it until you see the big picture. We're in Alaska, we're in Wyoming, we're in Maine, we're all over the country, but states that have resources or something that the global energy sector might want, and not as many people, are very subject to corruption and foreign influence through corporate entities that are owned by government interests. And we saw it with the mining issues in Alaska with Canadian companies that took out at least 7 Republican lawmakers because they weren't going along with the Pebble mine in Alaska. We're seeing it with companies that are spending literally $200 million on ballot initiatives, citizen initiatives, like you're facing in Maine, to rewrite the laws of the state. You're seeing it in Maine. So this is going to get worse before it gets better unless we put a stop to it. And I am just so proud of Maine and the people of Maine for once again leading the way to put a stop to it, not only for Maine, but for the whole country. There's a lot of important energy issues. They're complex, they're challenging, but they need the voices of the people to solve going forward, not the people drowned out. So Dr. Evans, Representative Grochowski, please stand by, stay with us. Thank you so much for your leadership. I do want to bring in, remember folks on the call on Facebook Live, sign up at the link at the bottom of the chat to volunteer. We need you today. You'll be out on the polls on Tuesday. Tell your friends, spread the link. We need lots of volunteers across the state of Maine, as Representative Grochowski says, to get this on the ballot in 22. It's game time right now, because that's how we do it. We get all the signatures, as many as we can next week, and we're on our way, but we need you. So thank you. If you don't think it's fun, you haven't talked to Hillary Shende. I was out with Hillary at the Lewiston Farmers Market not long ago. I can confirm what our representative said, and that people spin on their heels when they hear what this is to sign up, and they doesn't matter what their party is. They say, where do I sign? How do I help? And I thank you for being on this call, because I think that's where you're coming from too. But let me bring Hillary into it. She's a volunteer with American Promise in Maine and the Protect Maine Elections Ballot Initiative. And Hillary lives in Brunswick. She has a background in psychology and clinical psychology, and is at home with her children, young children right now. Hillary, I'm so glad you're with us. Welcome to this important conversation tonight.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Great. So you have stepped in even though you're busy, you have young kids, you have been, and I've witnessed this out talking to Mainers, thousands have signed on to American Promise to Stand with Maine. And now all of that effort is moving as fast as we can to the ballot initiative and getting signatures for that. I'd like to hear what motivates you to do this, but even more so, given the time and the importance that folks do sign up to gather signatures, tell us what it's like. You're a volunteer, you hadn't done a lot of this before, you got a clipboard, you went out and you started having these conversations. What's that like? What are people going to see when they sign up and get out there on Tuesday to gather signatures?
Well, it's just been so rewarding at the Lewiston Farmers Market, at the New Gloucester Fair, and all the way back to March of 2020, just before the whole country shut down. I was gathering signatures outside my polling place and for the Stand with Maine initiative. And it was amazing to see the response I got. I just had a little card table with a sign that said, "Get money out of politics." And people were coming out after having voted, and they would see that sign and they would make a beeline for me. And there were other people there trying to get signatures for other issues, candidates, etc. They came to me first, and all kinds of people, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, you name it, they were there. We had people in Birkenstocks and people in MAGA hats. We had big burly guys with tattoos and Trump shirts, and small people with little peace signs on their as buttons on their blouses and whatnot. It was everybody. Nobody went by unless they were in a super hurry. I got I think over 400 signatures on that day alone. I stayed all day. I didn't want to stop because it was so rewarding, especially since the whole country has gotten so polarized, to see such unity in all the voters. This is something everybody wants, and it feels so good to be a part of something that is just morally right and everybody is with us.
Great. And thank you for sharing that experience. And this, as again, everyone, if you're joining us in progress on Facebook Live, this is a conversation about foreign government money influence in our elections, about putting voters and the voices of the people first, not way at the back after the donors have their say and push the voices of the people aside. And most importantly, right now, when you think you can't do anything or your voice can't be heard, well, that's not right tonight, because you can sign up in the chat to join Hillary and the representatives on this call and many, many, many hundreds and of others, Maine folks, at the polling places on Tuesday to give the opportunity to the other Maine people to sign on and make law. And what this law will do is stop foreign government money influencing Maine's elections and make our leaders in Washington listen to the unity that's in Maine and start acting like it in Congress and get this constitutional amendment passed to fix this problem once and for all. That's what we can do tonight. So sign up, volunteer, and we're going to continue the conversation. So put in your questions in the chat. If you have any questions, please share them and I'll make sure they get in to our speakers. Dr. Evans, did you want to jump in? I'm going to come back to Hillary. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if you were.
No, this is really an important issue that cuts across the board for everybody. And it's something, what we tend to do a lot of times is we take positions and on certain things. Or you decide to sit this one out. This is not something that you sit out. This is where we need people to stand up and say, enough is enough. We're not going to take this because it's not right. And as long as we know that it's not right, we have the power and the ability to fix it. So I implore everybody to get involved in this, because if we don't do it now, there may not be a tomorrow, but the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to get. So now that you got me thinking about it, it's really starting to bother me. So,
Well, thank you, Dr. Evans. I know it bothered you before too, because you stepped forward and are serving your people in the legislature and serving in so many other ways for this country. And I'm glad you're bothered, because that means things are going the right way. And we're going to have your big voice and hard work behind this with so many others, including Hillary Shende, a super volunteer with so many others in the American Promise Stand with Maine chapter and in Protect Maine elections. She was telling us about it's actually fun and gratifying to be out there, because this is not one of those divisive issues. This is one where the law that we can make together is right and protects our families and communities. And by trying to do it together, we actually start to heal this country. So Hillary, let me ask you again, you shared a bit about that experience. What are some of the issues that people are talking about? What do you get a sense of those big burly people with peace signs and those others who you see out there, what their issues are? Why is it just like Dr. Evans, this is not right, this is bothering me, I'm sick and tired of it, which I know a lot of people feel. And are there issues or potential things we could do better if we fix this problem that motivate you and the people you talk to be out doing this effort?
Well, the thing is, it really runs the gamut. People are concerned about all different kinds of things. Each person has their own issue that they want to see enacted in policy in some way. No matter what side you're on of any political issue, your voice isn't being heard. So, whether it's abortion or guns or immigration or climate change or anything, and if you're on either side of that issue, whatever it is, you don't get heard. And instead you just get, hundreds of flyers in the mail and ads on your social media, on your TV screen. And everybody is sick of it. Everybody, it doesn't matter who you are or what particular issue you care about most. It's just a universal dislike of just, get this out of my face. My voice ought to be heard. I live here, these are my representatives. They're supposed to represent my voice, but of course they can't, because, they have purse strings and, all this foreign influence, all these big money donors. And, if someone with deep pockets has helped you win an election, even if they were just blasting a lot of negative ads about your opponent, you're going to have a little bit of an inclination to want to keep them happy and not necessarily do what your constituents want. And constituents, we voters, want real representation. That's what democracy is for. And that's what I want to leave for my children as they grow up. I want them to feel like their voices matter.
Right. Well, thank you, Hillary. And so many are with you and will be with you on Tuesday. If you haven't already, I've said it several times, so forgive me, I'll say it one more. Sign up to volunteer and be out there with Hillary and the representatives on Tuesday, getting this issue before the voters on the ballot so that we can begin to change this thing. Let me bring it back to Representative Nicole Grochowski with a question from our audience. There's a question about the opposition. Is there an entity, a group, people who are working against this particular initiative that you're aware of yet? What can you say about sort of the other side on this question?
That's a great question. And I would say, our initiative to bring this to the people to vote on is still so new that we don't have any, filings that I'm aware of with our Ethics Commission here in Maine disclosing anyone who is in opposition to us or spending money in opposition to us. But I do expect that will happen because, the people having a say in that true representation that Hillary mentioned is a threat to people that have a significant and a disproportionate amount of power in this country. So I do expect there will be opposition, because as more and more states take a step in this direction and really put the pressure on the federal government, the power that hierarchy that we have now will be threatened. So who they will be, I'm not yet sure. And under what name or made up name will they be acting? That I really don't know. It will be Mainers for XYZ. Because what we see happens is anything that's money from out of state coming in, they have to remind us, oh, we're actually Mainers, when they're really probably not. That's a red flag to me. But this was opposed, our efforts were opposed in the state house. There is information about who testified against us. Certainly the proponents of the Central Maine Power Corridor, which is just an issue that's on our minds here in Maine right now, where they're testifying against this and saying, we have the right to speak too. The part that they missed is that they have every right to speak to the press or to write letters to the editor. What they shouldn't have the right to do is spend tens of millions of dollars drowning out Maine people's voices. That is different than the right to speak as you or I think of it. So they were some opponents to that question because it threatened them in their efforts right now. But I expect that we will see much, much bigger organizations feeling threatened by this. And I don't know, Jeff, if American Promise has seen a lot of opposition in other states, or perhaps they are being quiet right now because we're still in the first 5 to 10 state range, and the activity will increase as the momentum increases. I don't know what your experience has been elsewhere.
Yeah, I'd love to share on that, because I think you're quite right. That is the lineup. This is literally the people against a few people who have huge treasuries and resources and vested interests in a system that virtually every American desperately wants to change. But that won't make it easy. There are powerful forces that benefit from the current status quo, and powerful global forces that actually don't really care whether it's America's a democracy or it's just another country that they're dealing with in terms of the issues that they want to have power about. So in terms of other places, we actually have 22 states that have formally passed resolutions calling for this constitutional amendment. We call it the For Our Freedom Amendment, for all of our freedom, constitutional amendment. It's introduced in Congress. It's moving. It's got made a lot of progress. It has about 80% support. And the 20% just, it's not like they're against. They're just not quite sure yet why we need a constitutional amendment instead of just doing this. We do need a constitutional amendment for the reasons I said about the distortion and twisting of our First Amendment rights of the people into being rights for money instead of we the people. So we need to fix that. But as I said, six of those have been by ballot initiative. The others were by legislative resolution. The opposition's interesting because they're very sophisticated, and they know that it's really hard to convince Americans and Mainers that unlimited money is a free speech right that gives you a right to drown out everybody else. The argument about the Constitution, we've already won, I think, and we have to keep winning, thanks to all of you, over and over again, because we have to make it stick. But almost nobody believes that if you have $100 million, you get to buy the entire airwaves and the election, and nobody else gets to be heard. That's wrong, and most Americans know it. So they rarely even try to make that case anymore. What they'll do, and watch it for this in Maine, that's why you got to sign up and get out there and talk to your fellow Mainers and be disciplined about the partisan issues that divide us, because this one doesn't, because all they have to do is divide us. And that's easy these days, especially with big money, social media, disinformation. Because if it's just a partisan issue that's 50-50 support, we can't win with 51 support. We can't win lasting protection for our rights and our families and our futures without mobilizing the 3 out of 4 Americans that are ready to amend the Constitution and to do it. And so all they have to do is say, hey, this is progressives against conservatives. It's, Trump against, Biden. It's just, don't let them divide us. That's their strategy. And that's what they do. They try to make it like it's a partisan thing. And if we have the discipline to unify this country, and that's already unified on this issue, and stick together on this, we're going to win this thing. And Maine's going to win this starting tonight when you sign up to get signatures. So let Representative Nicole Grahowski have the last word from Protect Maine Elections. People are going to sign up because they've heard this so many times. They're going to be volunteers. What do they expect on Tuesday, and what comes next for this campaign?
Thanks. Yeah, and I hope you have signed up if you're watching. It is just a click away and a little bit of contact information that we need to get in touch with you. But Election Day is such a fantastic opportunity to connect with people in Maine, because everyone going to the polls is a registered voter. So we know for sure that you are connecting with the right people to get our petition finalized and on the ballot for 2022. So it is a day to not be missed. It is not a day to sit out and think, oh, I'll get to it on November 3rd. November 2nd is such a phenomenal opportunity for us. So as soon as you sign up in the next couple days, our team will be in touch with you and get you all the information and materials you need to have a successful election day, to sign up for a shift, to be out there connecting with people, as has been said, on an issue that unites us and does not divide us. I think it will, at least speaking for myself, and it sounds like for others involved as well, really buoy your spirits and give you hope that there is so much that we agree on. And it's why I do this work, is because I am looking to find common ground, and I'm certain that we have it on this issue. So I hope that you'll get out there on Election Day. We'll get you those materials that you need, and you can just start chatting with folks. Something that I think some of us are a little out of practice doing because of the pandemic, but it's a good chance to warm up those skills and start seeing your neighbors again and having these great conversations with them. So thank you for your consideration. I really hope you will join us in what is now just a couple of days away, a whole week away.
Great. I'm going to give one more question because it's related to that call to action. You've said it before. I know everyone's heard it. I hope Tuesday is the day, November 2nd, because that's when so many signatures are gathered. But there is a question about the deadline for all the signatures and when that is.
Yep, so they have to be submitted to the Secretary of State by the end of January, but we hope to have them in hand a little bit earlier than that, just so we can make sure we give all of our clerks time to verify them and go through the sort of clerical process that you won't have to worry about once we get those signatures from you. But we are excited for an early January sort of wrap up of the signature collection phase. And if I see another question, if you are collecting signatures for another effort, we are partnering with other efforts and certainly encourage you to collect signatures for as many causes as you believe in.
Great. Representative Nicole Grahowski, thank you so much for your leadership on this, Protect Maine Elections, and all your work in the legislature. Representative Rich Evans, thank you as well for your leadership on this and your work for the people of Maine. Hillary Shende, for your leadership for the people of Maine as a volunteer with American Promise and Protect Maine Elections. And to all of you in Maine for inspiring, once again, America with leadership. Leadership where the sun rises on the country, and we'll bring that sunshine across the entire country with a big win. So sign up tonight, and we'll see you out at the polls November 2nd. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Jeff Clements with American Promise. We are joined as well by Protect Maine Elections and all the good folks there. We're going to win this thing. Thanks to all of you, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.